The primary challenge in feline ethology is an observational paradox. When researchers attempt to study behavior in clinical environments, cats rarely display natural baseline responses. Historically, researchers tried to bypass this limitation by relying on owner reports. This introduced a secondary flaw. Human observation is inherently compromised by subjective, anthropomorphic bias. To strip the subjective bias from owner observations, a research team originating from the University of Helsinki's Department of Veterinary Biosciences designed a new dataset. They gathered behavioral reports on more than 4,300 individual cats, categorized across 26 distinct breed populations. The input mechanism required owners to complete a highly granular 138-item behavioral questionnaire detailing specific reactions to targeted stimuli. Converting tens of thousands of subjective human anecdotes into objective, quantifiable metrics offers a concrete method to bypass human error and accurately map the feline mind. This 3D scatterplot visualizes the sheer density of the raw data, plotting 4,316 individual subjects against 138 distinct behavioral variables. By applying strict mathematical filtering to this distribution, we identify patterns that expose a hidden genetic architecture beneath the noise. The mathematical objective is to distill these 138 disparate survey variables into a singular, highly structured 7-factor behavioral model. Extracting these exact 7 factors requires forcing the raw survey data through strict statistical gates to mathematically prove which behaviors are linked. The first phase of statistical deduction is elimination. The dataset is pruned to remove any incomplete responses and individuals with high volumes of missing data. The remaining data must pass a primary statistical gatekeeper, the KMO test for sampling adequacy. The sample achieved a KMO adequacy score of 0.90. This confirms the dataset possesses the mathematical density required to undergo factor extraction. With the sample validated, the researchers applied the central analytical tool, exploratory factor analysis. This animated matrix demonstrates how exploratory factor analysis calculates exactly which survey responses reliably cluster together. If an owner marks a cat as suspicious, the analysis shows they almost always report the cat also escapes or freezes under stress. The math proves these specific behaviors bind together. Because these specific items share correlation loadings greater than 0.3, they mathematically merge to constitute the first major extracted factor, fearfulness. Identifying the factors is only the first step. The model must now prove its immunity to temporal variance. This timeline visualizes the test-retest reliability methodology, charting the exact same owners evaluating the exact same cats after a mean 66-day interval. The results yielded a high mean correlation of 0.83. The behavior remained mathematically consistent. The model then faced a second reliability hurdle, controlling for the bias of a single observer. To solve this, researchers utilized the inter-rater reliability test, measuring the intra-class correlation between 2 different humans evaluating the same animal. This split-screen interface shows the process of comparing behavioral scores from 2 distinct adults in the same household, independently observing 1 cat. The intra-class correlation proved highly successful, exceeding 0.60 across all factors. Passing both the test-retest and inter-rater checks confirms these 7 traits are rooted in the objective biology of the animal, insulated from the imagination of the owner. Next, the factors must demonstrate convergent validity. The model is required to reproduce established ethological facts. This line chart plots the age of the subjects along the x-axis against their calculated activity and playfulness score on the y-axis. The data yields a predictable negative correlation. The model correctly identifies that older cats exhibit lower activity levels, satisfying the convergent test. Finally, the researchers tested for discriminant validity, the statistical proof that the 7 distinct factors do not mistakenly overlap with one another. This heat map illustrates the factor correlation matrix, scanning the entire dataset to visualize all 7 behavioral traits intersecting against each other. The vast majority of these intersections display extremely low cross-correlations. This confirms factor independence. The survey isn't measuring the same trait twice. However, the matrix revealed a single anomalous finding, the intersection between aggression toward humans and sociability toward cats. The scan detected a moderate negative correlation of -0.31. Cats highly sociable with other felines score lower on human aggression, exposing a specific phenotypic link that warrants dedicated genetic study. By successfully passing these mathematical gates, the 7-factor structure transcends theoretical modeling. It is now a verified scientific instrument. With the methodology validated, researchers applied the instrument directly to the biology, scoring the 26 feline breed groups against the new metrics. They utilized the Kruskal-Wallis test to rigorously compare the mean behavioral scores across the distinct breed populations. The results confirmed that statistically significant behavioral differences exist across every single one of the 7 personality traits. This dynamic bar chart compares the breed populations specifically along the fearfulness axis, highlighting a distinct extreme in the data. The Russian blue isolated itself, exhibiting the highest statistical baseline for fearfulness among all measured groups. This animated chart now morphs to isolate the activity and playfulness factor, locating a completely different behavioral extreme. Here, the Bengal registers as the maximum statistical outlier, a finding that aligns tightly with the breed's documented high prey interest. Because these distinct behavioral extremes isolate so cleanly by specific breed, the data points to a highly heritable, structural genetic baseline dictating feline personality. The data also quantifies interpersonal dynamics. When we isolate the aggression toward humans metric, the population splits again. This chart tracks the aggression toward humans metric, isolating a specific group at the extreme high end of the scale. The Turkish Vans scored the highest probabilities for touch sensitivity and owner-directed aggression in the entire dataset. This iteration of the chart demonstrates the inverse social extreme, sorting the populations by sociability toward cats. The index is dominated by Oriental breeds, with the Siamese proving highly sociable with feline peers. The final 2 factors in the model, excessive grooming and litter box issues, operate differently. They function as observable, external markers for low stress tolerance. This final chart tracks those markers, revealing that specific populations like the Siamese and Balinese peak sharply on the excessive grooming axis, indicating higher baseline rates of compulsive stress responses. By pinning down these specific breed profiles, this quantifiable data acts as a practical instrument for veterinary behavioral triage and precision shelter adoption matching. By extracting the rigorous mathematics hidden inside subjective human observation, researchers have constructed the necessary framework to map the genetic architecture of the animal mind.